What's up, y'all? It's T-Turn. Today we're looking at more of y'all's theories for Pokemon in 2024. Let's go. Why a third DLC is highly plausible. Y'all know I want this, but there's no way though. Let's see. Hi, T-Tar. There are two factors that we need to consider when talking about a third DLC and why Gamefreak would think about doing that. The scale of the games they're producing and Nintendo's next hardware. I think I see where you're going. Rumors seem to be that the next Nintendo Switch will come out at the end of this year. Not confirmed, not final, but you would think that the more important games that they're developing would be pushed to that. So all they gotta do is keep us busy, so they can have a third DLC for Scarlet and Violet to keep us busy, then maybe a small Johto game, like an LCA Johto game, and then we're done with the Switch, then we can move on to the Super Switch, whatever's coming next. Nothing's confirmed. Switch has reached its limit. I won't go into details unless you want me to. I'm a game developer. But trust me, Gamefreak can't do better on Switch, and if they create a remake of Gen 2, they'll need better hardware unless they go full Let's Go. Which I doubt, because according to Koos hints, they're cooking something big. Open world for Gen 2 remakes. I'm sorry? For that, they need better hardware, and that's an issue because Nintendo hasn't shown their new system. So far, I don't see anything about open world Gen 2 remakes. That sounds insane, but I don't see anything uncool about that. But I'll give Cool a better look and let y'all know next video. Because the other thing with Gen 2 being open world is Gamefreak wants to experiment with new stuff. So just going back to Johto and making that open world is probably not as interesting to them as developers as it would be for them to just make a new region. Splatoon 4 is why Nintendo won't even tease their next hardware. Right, so Nintendo has to be very careful with what they show because people need to stay excited about what's out. If I'm right, that means we won't be seeing Nintendo's next hardware before spring of 2024. If Nintendo put out a direct sometime around February or March, nearing where Pokemon's direct is, then Pokemon can actually announce this upcoming game for the new Nintendo console now that it's announced. Could you imagine Pokemon Yin and Yang for the Super Switch? Keep in mind that Splatoon is a huge system seller in Japan, and according to Kid and Krista, ex-Nintendo employees, people at Nintendo are really careful with sales cannibalization. This isn't wrong. Every company should be scared of this. Got a freaking essay here. All this leads to Pokemon Day and only two options. They are either going to show us a Legends game or a third DLC, which makes more sense production wise. It's easier, cheaper, and faster to develop, giving them time to focus on making huge games for Nintendo's next hardware. Stop giving me hope. Not that, like, I mean, honestly, the way Scarlet and Violet are now, it's fine if it ends like this. I'm just curious if they left room for something to happen, right? By giving us the book again and then locking the time machine. It's like they can make one final DLC. It's not called the Hidden Treasures of Area Zero because we've already found it. It's Tropigus. It'd be called something else. Maybe something with the Unova twist on it. Not that we're going to Unova, just to keep people interested in Unova. Listen, I know this is far-fetched. I'm just giving y'all ideas for what the third DLC could be, right? Imagine in both games what you're doing is you're taking this paradoxical key to the time machine to the time machine room. They let you go back in after you start the DLC. And you get to have a little distortion world like situation, right? You know how Sonic and Tour, they went to a different world? I know they said they couldn't come back, but in some weird way, the DLC is you just exploring some weird past world or a weird future world. That's a kicker. That's a sick final DLC. If we want to talk about why isn't stuff about the third DLC left in the code, the same way we had like Indigo disc remnants in the Teal mask code, the 8 new Pokemon, the Terrestrial states and all. Well, they're packaged together, the Teal Mask and Indigo disc. So it can make sense that once the Teal Mask came out, the remnants of the other side of the same package could be seen. But if this was a complete different DLC, it could make sense. Listen, if I were to give y'all percentages, it's like a 10% chance of us getting a third DLC. 90% we not. I want the third DLC though. Especially since they made the epilogue, it's legit like they're finishing Scarlet and Violet. Have you read the comment sections of the DLC trailers on Nintendo's channel? People are mad. I know they're haters, but Gamefreak has to redeem themselves in the eyes of that crazy people. Honestly, it's hard to tell, but I think most of the people who are mad at Gamefreak are people who are like hyper online. So it's all these communities. But generally the public, the 10-20 million sales that Scarlet and Violet got, if you generally ask them, I think they'd say they enjoyed the games and that it didn't bother them much. Not to discredit, you know, the FPS issues and all. It's just the observation, but I think we get a skewed image of how people actually feel about the Pokemon games when we look online. Gamefreak has to redeem themselves in the eyes of these crazy people, and making a new game for a hardware that has reached its limit won't do them any good. Quite the contrary. So the safest bet is to create a third DLC, and the Scarlet and Violet book gives them the perfect excuse. Yeah, bro, I've talked enough about this book making no sense that they gave it to us. It legit, even if there's no third DLC, my dudes, It sounds like they had content that they scrapped last minute, that you were supposed to go back to the time machine. And because they had to scrap everything, they're just like, bro, we just have to not let them go to the time machine. Now, whether they'll address us being able to go to the time machine or leave it like that with the epilogue is up to them. But I'm convinced they scrapped something that was supposed to happen. Think about it. I ain't gonna go on another rant, but just sit, close your eyes for 10 seconds and think. Why did they ever have to give us back the Scarlet and Violet book? Which is not just any book, but the key to the time machine. And then why did they lock us out of the time machine? Impossible that they did not have something planned. It is a good point here that whatever a third DLC could be, if that's the situation, it wouldn't be something grandiose like the Paradox Worlds. It would have to be something they could efficiently throw at us, make us feast on while they're working on the more important games later this year. So what is an easy to make DLC they could develop? This is weird to say, y'all. You know why? Because if they really needed to make a third DLC, why did they ever make the epilogue? They could have just made that the third DLC. They could have just not had that as a part of the Indigo Disc update. Then the third DLC is all the friends meeting together back in Kitakami. And you would just make the DLC longer. You know, you'd be like twice as long as it is. Well, you'd make the epilogue twice as long as it is now. So the fact that they decided to, for no reason, epilogue the DLC kind of makes it sound like they just gave away their opportunity for a third DLC if they wanted that. Darn, now it sounds like they don't want one. But if I were to come up with some simple idea for them to make a third DLC, I just thought of a Glitterati DLC. All the truths revealed about this woman. Okay, I've thought of something. I'm just giving simple ideas, okay? These are gonna sound fan servicey, but I'm trying to be realistic about it. So third DLC, Cyrano, in some turn of events, he takes you. Imagine he even takes your whole friend group, all 6 of us. He takes you to an island in Unova. So a very small map they'd have to design. Smaller than Kitakami was, smaller than the whole Blueberry Academy and Terrarium. Just a small island where it's kind of like a vacation. He's there doing things and he wants y'all to come with them to research something there. And it's Liberty Island. That's the third DLC. Maybe you even meet Victini, something, but a small story unfolds. That stalls us until their next games. It's 2 birds with 1 stone. By advertising Unova again and again, it gets Unova on people's minds so that when Pokemon Yin and Yang or whatever is announced, people are more ready to be excited about it. And last thing, this doesn't mean that they won't show us a Legends game. There's a big chance they will, because Gamefreak can still pull off something fancier than Legends Arceus on our normal Switch without ruining the FPS. It depends how hard it is for them to make a Legends game. Because with Hisui, they did design that whole region, right? How big really is Hisui? Is it as big as Kitakami? If Hisui is just as big as Kitakami, and all we have is the village in the middle, and then like the 2 diamond and pearl settlements, and then the rest is just mostly landscape, then maybe Legends is kind of equivalent to them making 2 DLCs in terms of how much effort it could take. Since Legends is established now, right? It was probably really hard when they were first making it. Okay, so thinking of it like that, they could do Legends Johto. I did record something about Legends Johto. I have to put it in the next video. It was like a week ago. They can make a Legends Johto that's very simple. You know, we just have 1 village in the center, maybe where Ekkertique is, and then the rest of the region just landscape. If they did it that simple, then maybe they wouldn't mind going back to Johto. Scarlet and Violet book versus Time Machine Room mystery. Someone answer this to me. Hey T-Tar, just saw a new video about why the Indigo Disc gave us the book but locked us out, and I have an idea. What if you get the Scarlet and Violet book from the end of the Indigo Disc in one game, then poke a portal to a friend's game that didn't have the DLC? Won't you be able to visit the Time Machine Room there? What if this spawns another secret cutscene like the Crystal Pool? You know, I'm about to try this, but there's no way someone online has not done this yet. I'm gonna try this. Bro, You can't... You can't poke a portal in Area 0. But you see, that was a weird idea, but that's like the only leads it leads us with when they gave us the book and locked us out. And yeah, make sure y'all shank that like button. We got a lot more ideas to talk about, so I'll see y'all later today or tomorrow. And I think it's still 8 weeks remain, y'all. I think we're approaching 7 though. We're almost at the big 7. We got so much to talk about, y'all. We gonna make it to this Pokemon Day. I'll see y'all on the next one. Take care.